fortunate enough to attain this happiness. Well, you haven't been dragging your steps up to now, but your pace could be increased. There's a lot of work remaining to be done, and if you want to be successful, you must devote all your waking hours and all your efforts to the task personally. This is not something that admits of delegation. It is a different branch of learning which has room for deviling. There was a rich man called Calvisius Sabinus in my own lifetime who had a freedman's brains along with a freedman's fortune. I have never seen greater vulgarity in a successful man. His memory was so bad that at one moment or another the names of Ulysses or Achilles or Priam, characters he knew as well as we knew our early teachers, would slip his memory. No doddering butler ever went through the introductions of a mass of callers committing quite such solecisms, not announcing people's names so much as foisting names on them, as Sabinus did with the Greek and Trojan heroes. But this didn't stop him wanting to appear a well-read man, and to this end he thought up the following shortcut. He spent an enormous amount of money on slaves, one of them to know Homer by heart, another to know Hesiod, while he assigned one apiece to each of the 9 lyric poets. That the cost was enormous is hardly surprising. Not having found what he wanted in the market, he had them made to order. After this collection of slaves had been procured for him, he began to give his dinner guests nightmares. He would have these fellows at his elbow so that he could continually be turning to them for quotations from these poets, which he might repeat to the company, and then, it happened frequently, he would break down halfway through a word. Tertullius Quadratus, who regarded stupid millionaires as fair game to be sponged off, and consequently also fair game for flattery, as well as, and this goes with the other 2 things, fair game for facetiousness at their expense, suggested to him that he should keep a team of scholars to pick up the bits. On Sabinus letting it be known that the slaves had set him back 100,000 sesterces apiece, he said, "Yes, for less than that, you could have brought the same number of bookcases." Sabinus was nonetheless quite convinced that what anyone in his household knew, he knew personally. It was Tertullius again who started urging Sabinus, a pale and skinny individual whose health was poor, to take up wrestling. When Sabinus retorted, "How can I possibly do that? It's as much as I can do to stay alive." Tertullius answered, "Now please, don't say that. Look how many slaves you got in perfect physical condition." A sound mind can neither be bought nor borrowed, and if it were for sale, I doubt whether it would find a buyer. And yet unsound ones are being purchased every day. But let me pay you what I owe you and say goodbye. Poverty brought into accord with the law of nature is wealth. Epicurus is constantly saying this in one way or another, but something that can never be learnt too thoroughly can never be said too often. With some people, you only need to point to a remedy. Others need to have it rammed into them. Letter number 28. Do you think you are the only person to have had this experience? Are you really surprised, as if it was something unprecedented, that so long a tour and such diversity of scene have not enabled you to throw off this melancholy and this feeling of depression? A change of character, not a change of air, is what you need. Though you cross the boundless ocean, though, to use the words of our poet Virgil, lands and towns are left astern, whatever your destination, you will be followed by your failings. Well, here is what Socrates said to someone who was making the same complaint. How can you wonder your travels do you no good when you carry yourself around with you? You are saddled with the very thing that drove you away. How can novelty of surroundings abroad and becoming acquainted with foreign scenes or cities be of any help? All that dashing about turns out to be quite futile, and if you want to know why all this running away cannot help you, the answer is simply this: you are running away in your own company. You have to lay aside the load on your spirit. Until you do that, nowhere will satisfy you. Imagine your present state as being like that of the prophetess, whom our Virgil represents in a roused and excited state, largely taken over by a spirit not her own. The Sibyl raves about as one possessed, in hope she may dislodge the mighty god within her bosom. You rush hither and thither with the idea of dislodging a firmly seated weight, when the very dashing about just adds to the trouble it causes you. Like the cargo in a ship, which does not weigh her down unduly so long as it does not shift. But if it rolls more to one side than the other, it is liable to carry the side on which it settles down into the water. Whatever you do is bad for you, the very movement in itself being harmful to you, since you are in fact shaking up a sick man. Once you have rid yourself of the affliction there, though, every change of scene will become a pleasure. You may be banished to the ends of the earth, and yet in whatever outlandish corner of the world you may find yourself stationed, you will find that place, whatever it may be, like a hospitable home. Where you arrive does not matter, so much as what sort of person you are when you arrive there. We ought not, therefore, to give over our hearts for good to any one part of the world. We should live with the conviction, I wasn't born for one particular corner, the whole world's my home country. If the truth of that were clear to you, you would not be surprised that the diversity of new surroundings, for which out of weariness of the old you are constantly heading, fails to do you any good. Whichever you first came to would have satisfied you, if you had believed you were at home in all. As it is, instead of travelling, you're rambling and drifting, exchanging one place for another, when the thing you are looking for, the good life, is available everywhere. Could there be a scene of greater turmoil than the city? Yet even there, if need be, you are free to lead a life of peace. Given a free choice of posting, though, I should flee a long way from the vicinity, let alone the sight of the city. For in the same way as there are unpleasant climates which are trying even to the most robust constitutions, there are others which are none too wholesome for the mind, even though it be a sound one, when it is still in an imperfect state and building up its strength. I do not agree with those who recommend a stormy life and plunge straight into the breakers, waging a spirited struggle against worldly obstacles every day of their lives. The wise man will put up with these things, not go out of his way to meet them. He will prefer a state of peace to a state of war. It does not profit a man much to have managed to discard his own failings, if he must ever be at loggerheads with other people's. Socrates, they will tell you, had the 30 tyrants standing over him, and yet they could not break his spirit. What difference does it make how many masters a man has? Slavery is only one, and yet the person who refuses to let the thought of it affect him is a free man, no matter how great the swarm of masters around him. It is time I left off. Not before I have paid the usual duty, though. A consciousness of wrongdoing is the first step to salvation. This remark of Epicurus is to me a very good one, for a person who is not aware that he is doing anything wrong has no desire to put it right. You have to catch yourself doing it before you can reform. Some people boast about their failings. Can you imagine someone who counts his faults as merits ever giving thought to their cure? So, to the best of your ability, demonstrate your own guilt. Conduct inquiries of your own into all the evidence against yourself. Play the part first of prosecutor, then of judge, and finally of pleader in mitigation. Be harsh with yourself at times. Letter number 33. You feel that my present letters should be like my earlier ones and have odd sayings of leading Stoics appended to them. But they never busied themselves with philosophical gems. Their whole system was too virile for that. When things stand out and attract attention in a work, you can be sure there is an uneven quality about it. One tree by itself never calls for admiration when the whole forest rises to the same height. Poetry is replete with such things, so is history. So please don't think